Hello and welcome to another episode of Functional Family Fridays. I'm Reiki Rita Roberts, holistic family relationship coach. I had to think about that for a minute. Anyways, today we're going to talk about what a toxic parent is. We're hearing that word being thrown around quite a bit, but some people don't really know if their parents qualify or not. So I'm going to tell you what it is from my perspective, not a clinical perspective, but an energetic one, meaning all the people that I've worked with and helped heal from unhappy families and some of the commonalities that I've seen. Now, toxic has a lot of characteristics. If you were to Google it, the definition has a lot of different things. Basically meaning toxic parents are negative and pessimistic in nature. They're highly reactive. They have dismissive behavior. They're very unconscious or distracted. They lack empathy. They don't feel their child's pain. You'll also see stuff of them being angry, critical, mean, controlling, very insecure people. Some of the toxic is referred to as addictive behavior. They're either on drugs, alcohol, they work too much, right? They have abusive, or they're bully, or they're intimidating. They're blaming and judgmental. They have a victim mentality, very self-centered and focused on ego. You've also the word narcissist. Now, those are all encompassing what a toxic parent is. But that's a result of what I'm about to tell you. The reason people become, not just parents, but people in general, become toxic is because there's no love there, all right? Very simply, the best way to tell if your parent is toxic is whether or not you feel unconditionally loved by your parent, okay? And if the answer is no, then it's safe to say that your parent has some form of toxic behavior. And why is that? Because nothing works in the absence of love. And parents' job is basically should be founded in unconditional love. But if they're incapable of love, then, things are going to go south, right? So aside from those characteristics of what a toxic parent is, I've narrowed it down to 3 basic characteristics that toxic parents have. So number 1 is they're motivated by fear. Because you gotta remember, every decision we make is based on fear or love. So if there's an absence of love, then clearly they're operating in fear, okay? Number 2 is their negative emotions, meaning they're not happy. Toxic people are not happy people, okay? And number 3, they don't unconditionally love themselves. So when you can't do something, you can't teach someone else to do something that's impossible for you, okay? So in other words, you can't teach your children to cook if you don't know how to cook. You can't teach your children love if you don't know self-love. So that's where the damage starts, all right? So what I'm going to do is give you an explanation from an energetic perspective on why people become toxic. Because I really, truly believe that parents, including yours, believe it or not, had good intentions when they had you, okay? Most people conceive with love, all right? And it starts off with love, then it goes south. And then we wonder why it goes south. Okay? So, and before I get started with the energetic explanation, I want to explain two types of toxicity that I've noticed. All right? So, number one, toxic people and parent is the obvious. They're bullies, they're mean, they're controlling, they're addicted, they're dismissive, they're abusive, physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually. So those are obvious. They're violent. That's obvious. And a lot of people get caught up that when they hear the word toxic, they think of that. So then they say to themselves, well, my parent's not toxic because they're not extreme toxic. However, dysfunction also falls under another category of dysfunction and toxicity that we often don't talk about, but it still has damaging effects on your emotional health. This is what I struggled with, and probably you're struggling with, is the subtle dysfunction. Okay? This is the dirty looks, the sarcasm, the dismissive behavior, the negative, body language, stuff like that, that really hurts a sensitive child. So even though you think that your parent isn't toxic because they're not beating the crap out of you or sexually abusing you or whatever, there is subtle control. There's subtle dysfunction that if you're a highly sensitive person, and I'm guessing that you are, then you're also feeling those dirty looks, sarcasm, and it's devaluing you, making you feel unimportant to your parent, hurting your feelings, and making you feel unloved. Okay? So there's those two types of toxic parent behavior. All right? So what I want to talk to you now is an energetic perspective of why parents and people in general become toxic. Because sometimes, good parents can become bad parents, and bad parents can become good parents. And we say, we get confused about whether they're toxic or not because of that reason. And the reason there's a fluctuation is because of their energy. Okay? Their energy, toxic people and parents typically have very low energy. Okay? So let's say that all of a sudden they heal themselves and they become happy, better people. Their energy is going to spike and be higher. And when it's higher, okay, this is where love exists, happiness, kindness, generosity, fairness, trust, all these positive attributes live. So they can shift from low to high, but they could also shift from high to low if something stressful or damaging to their energy happens, and they continue to lose energy, perhaps depression or anxiety or grief stricken. It could be the loss of a job, fear of survival. Whatever's going to spike the fear is going to cause the parent to lose energy. And when they lose energy, that nice parent can become very toxic, okay, and not even know it. All right? So they become reactive people when we're in fear. So a lot of times I want to believe that parents' behavior is unconscious. They don't even know they're doing it. Okay? So when the parent's energy drops, because I want to give you a quick lesson inside. This is our energy field. Here's our body. We have an energy field around us. And we may think that money's the most important thing in our lives, but our most valuable possession is energy, because energy is where we get our power. So think about when you're sick or not motivated, you're depressed, your energy is very low, can't get out of the bed. So that's very, very precious to have good, strong energy that's going to get us up, get us motivated, and help us in the role of parent. But if your energy's down here because you're losing energy all the time, you're not going to be a healthy parent, okay? So what ends up happening, right? And we're all in the struggle for energy, whether we're consciously aware of it or unconsciously aware of it. We're always trying to get people's energy. So positive, conscious people get their energy in good and positive ways. They tend to go exercise, eat well, laughter, what else? I'm going blah. Nature gives us a lot of energy. These are examples of how we get energy. Get rest, sleep. However, toxic people with low energy, they get their energy. Guess where what toxic parents get it from? Other people. And toxic parents get it from their children. Why do they get it from their children? For 3 basic reasons. Because children naturally trust their parents. They have no reason to not trust them. After all, they feed them, put food on the table, put clothing on their back, and children are vulnerable. So they're easy prey for parents with low energy to get energy from their children. Because we all know children have a lot of natural energy. They move a lot, they bounce a lot, they're laughing, they're playing. So they're great to get energy off of, right? And children don't know better, right? They don't have the reasoning and life experience to question their parents' motives or behavior. So they lose a lot of energy without knowing it. And this could happen for years and years and years, okay? Number 2, children are naturally loyal to their parents, right? And I did it for years. No matter what my parents did, I would just keep forgiving them and hoping this time they're going to change, this time they're going to change, right? And children are dependent on their parents. So they can't get away from their parents when they're little or set healthy boundaries. So they're stuck there being victims to giving their toxic parents energy every day, okay? Sometimes even as adults, we don't know to hang up the phone because we think it's rude. So we just stay there and let them deplete us of our energy, right? Also, children are inexperienced. They don't have life experience. They don't realize that their parents' behavior is negative and toxic, okay? Because we're all raised and society keeps drumming in our head that dysfunction is normal, right? So we struggle with this when, we feel inside that we need to get away from this, but then society keeps telling us, oh, well, no family's perfect. That's how it is. Suck it up. They're your parents. You should do this. In fact, I just read an article from a psychotherapist and specialist who was, re-emphasizing that same thing, saying if it was a toxic friend, absolutely, disengage, disconnect. Oh, well, but when it's your parent, what are you going to do? Okay, we got to stop this craziness. We got to do something. That's what we got to do, all right? So that's why it's more common to see the parent-child challenges through the teenage years and young adults, because the children are trying to gain independence from the parents during that time in their life, and the parent becomes more challenging because now they can't control the child the way they used to when they were small, okay? Especially with internet knowledge. So the parent tends to be, look at this as a personal attack on them, and they become more controlling, right? So think of it this way. The toxic parent is using the child as their energetic meal ticket. So when the child becomes more evolved, emotionally evolved, mature, and knowledgeable and independent, all of a sudden it evokes fear in the parent to say, you know what, I'm going to lose my energy source. So I got to hype up the victimhood, the guilt tripping, the control. I could use that sort of that stand by saying, I'm the parent, you have to listen to me, do what I say or I'll cut you off. So they'll pull all the stops, right? And the power struggles begin between, that's why you're having them, between the parent and the child, right? That's what happens. I'm just referring, yeah, so I'm just referring to my notes, but I've told you a lot about this. Yeah, toxic parents feel present, threatened. So basically, that's why the power struggles happen energetically. That the parent doesn't love themselves. So they're operating in fear. And when you're living in fear, as you can see with the crazy that's going on in the world, if you're already fear-based and don't love yourself and not operating in love, but you're operating in fear, now you've got a whole world that's evoking more fear. So this is why you're seeing more domestic abuse, more suicides, because people can't cope with the level of fear that's going on. It's just adding more fear to their life, which they can't deal with, okay? And the whole thing here is that your parent is toxic because they're operating in this fear versus love. Now, the answer to this story would be to help your parent love themselves because they feel devalued. The cycle of dysfunction has been trickling down for eons, okay? So they probably learned how to love from their parents, and their parents learned it from their parents, and so the cycle goes on. And you're learning to now love yourself and respect for yourself because you're learning from your parents. So you can break the cycle now. How do I do that? Stop waiting for your parent to change and wake up one day and go, I'm a better person. I'm going to raise my energy and operate in love for the rest of my life. Unless they're willing to do the work on themselves, that's not going to change. And if you're waiting around, hoping and praying like I did and many other, children that grew up with toxic, dysfunctional families, we're always hoping they're going to change, that they're going to love us, and that everything's going to end happily ever after, so that we don't have to do something drastic, right? Like disconnect or challenge them or confront them. We'd rather just sit in denial and hope this just fixes itself. The answer is, I wish it did, love, but it doesn't work that way. Okay? What could happen is you start healing yourself and becoming a better person and a better example for your own parent. And they have one of two choices then. To be like you and to change themselves, or to stay stuck in fear and just get more angrier and more unhappy because they can no longer control you. So that's sort of what's going to happen here, okay? So that's why your parents are toxic, because their energy is low due to the fear, and it could be unconscious fear. They're not even aware of it. They've just learned it and downloaded it from their parents, from other people, from society, and they're living in fear, okay? And this is lowering their energy. Stress lowers our energy, and we have a shitload of it right now. Fear of survival lowers their energy, and people are worrying about their job. So don't be surprised if your parent is even more toxic and more needy right now, okay? So the thing is, though, you owe it to yourself. It's your birthright to be happy. And you owe it to your children if you're a parent watching this, or your future parent if you plan to have children one day. If you want to break this cycle and be a better parent, be a loving parent, okay? It doesn't just happen. You got to do the work, right? So you got to make the changes. You got to invest in your health. Listen, I'm a better parent now than I ever was. And it's only because I broke the cycle of dysfunction and learned how to be a loving parent. Healed my emotions, operating more in love than fear. Doesn't mean you'll never feel fear again, but at least it won't control you and you won't be parenting that way, okay? So that sort of concludes today's, and I hope you understand a little bit about energy, why people become toxic, and this is good for even friends and co-workers. Same strategy happens, okay? So what I've done is I want to help you, of course. That's why I'm here, to protect your energy from any more loss from your toxic parent. So what I've created, what I wished I could have found, is what I call the Toxic Parent Survival Guide. You need to get this. It's an 8-page insert, and I talk about different things that I believe you need right now, all right? Number one, why some parents, make their children feel unhappy and unloved. You need to know why, okay? And why being happy is necessary to reduce your stress, improve your emotional health, and build self-confidence, okay, and self-esteem. You're also going to learn about the 2 big mistakes that unhappy children do when they're communicating with their parents. And it gets them in trouble, and it gets them to lose more energy. You're also going to learn the number one thing that you need to do that will protect you from your toxic parent forever. So that in itself is priceless, okay? So this is yours for free, okay? I'm going to attach the link below. Please click on it, download it now, and help yourself. If you don't take this step, then I don't know how else to help you. You've got free information. Take the time, download it, help yourself, protect your energy. And if you haven't done so already, there's also a free Facebook group called Stressful Family Relationships that you could join and get some strategies and tips and support from other people dealing with toxic parents, okay? And what else? Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll get notifications of all my new videos and, my upcoming program called I Deserve Better. That's coming in April. I'm working on it diligently. Can't wait to get it in your hands. So join the waiting list if you're interested. All right? So hope that helps. Now you know why your parents are toxic and what you got to do to protect yourself. So I will see you next week on Functional Family Fridays. Till then, stay well, stay in the light, and whatever you do, protect your energy. God bless.